You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie. Along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please kick us off.
Hey, I'm Zach, and I am excited to introduce a lead offender on our podcast, Guillermo Coelho. Guillermo is a co-founder and CEO of Maven. He doesn't know what life is without pets. That's why he's building the first AI plus human vet that knows if your pet is safe and healthy 24/7. Guillermo, why don't you give us an update? What is Maven today, and what are you up to?
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me again. I actually took some time to see the exact time in space for the last time I was in the podcast, and I thought a little bit of how things changed. So it was almost 2.5 years ago, and a lot changed, right? Technology-wise, go-to-market-wise. So today, Maven is truly, if I had to summarize very quickly, a tool to help pet owners communicate with their pets. Okay, so the idea, the initial thesis, and the reason why we founded Maven, it's still the same. Okay, it's like everything in the pet industry is still reactive. Okay, we only act on our pet's health when it's too late, right? When there's clear signs of that something is wrong, and that also happened to me personally. And today, with technology, with artificial intelligence, with the capability to run machine learning models at the sensor level, we can build an understanding of our pets that before was not possible. Okay, and so that's what Maven does today. So we build technology which starts with a sensor, then we build a mobile app where pet owners can let the system know pretty much anything about their pet, a new symptom, a new medication, a vet visit, a new food, whatever it is. And then the system knows each pet and builds what we call this digital paw print of each single pet, cats and dogs, and it's capable of understanding early on meaningful fluctuations on the health parameters that might indicate that something is wrong. So that was the whole idea early on, and now we are much more capable technology-wise to keep developing on that. And today, Maven is being used by thousands of pet owners that feel at ease, have the peace of mind that knowing that they're doing the best they can to make sure their pets live long and healthy lives.
Well, that was a concise update with a ton of information in it. I want to just kind of jump in and check something with you. I think I heard you say that the way that you're approaching the market has changed. So I remember back when we met years ago, you guys were focused on veterinarians and helping them kind of like extend care beyond the office visit. It sounds now that there might have been a pivot to be more kind of direct to consumer. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. So I can talk a little bit about that. Early on at Maven, we found that no wearable in the space was two things. First, focus only on health, and the second one with clinical validation, right? So peer-to-peer publications that validate the technology. And so that's what we set ourselves to do, okay? And then the logical step after that was to work with the clinical teams, right? With vets, with nurses, and giving them this tool, as you were saying, to extend the care outside the vet clinic, right? So what we've built was, at the time, we were calling it a remote patient tool. That still flags problems on an early stage. That has always been there. But the idea was to flag it to the vet, okay, so that they could act on it. And we spent almost 1 year working with vets. That was really good for us to bring this clinical validation to everything that we do. We had to be serious about it, about our features. We work with 3 full-time vets that pretty much validate everything we do at Maven across product, across commercial, across clinical validation, across partnerships. But the reality is that vets are doing a lot with very little time they have. And so we started to see interest from consumers to have access to the technology, not necessarily through their vets, okay? And so maybe 16, 18 months ago, we decided to open the technology to pretty much any consumer. Any pet owner that wants to have access to Maven can go on our website and do so, okay? And the funny thing about this journey is that we started with vets, then we started to focus just on the consumer, and then today, I have, on a weekly basis, vets that reach out to Maven because one of their clients told them about Maven and they want to know more. Okay. And so just the other day, I got a contact from the University of Carolina saying that they have plenty of their clients, cardiology clients, with heart problems using Maven, they want to know more about us, what we do, and they want to see how we can work together. Okay. And on top of that, the most requested feature in 2025 from our users was the ability to share all the data they have from Maven on their phone with their vet. Okay. So I find it really interesting that our journey was, we started with vets first. It's a really hard, as you guys know, it's a really hard market to crack. And so we went consumer. And now what we are seeing is that consumers are telling their vets about Maven, and they want their vets involved with Maven, or they want at least Maven's data to help the pet owner and the vet provide better care, right? Because we have concrete data 24/7 that can guide diagnoses or treatment plans. And so I think it's a really interesting, funny journey that we've been on so far.
So I just want to loop back for one step, because we kind of talked about your product as we all know what it is, but not everybody who is listening actually know what it is. So a couple of times you said sensor. Where is the sensor? So are we talking a collar? Are we talking, it's a wearable from what I understand and remember. And then with that, if you can broaden a little bit on the specifics, what are you monitoring? Like, what is it that comes into the app? What does it look like? And how do pet parents engage with the data that they receive on their phone in the app, and what information it provides them with to be at ease on a daily basis?
Yeah. So obviously it starts with a wearable. So it's a small sensor that can be attached to any collar. And so on the sensor level, there's basically a set of health parameters that we monitor. Okay. So things obvious such as activity and sleep, all sorts of activity, high intense, low intense, sleep. Then we have like a sleep score, number of interruptions. And then we are the first company that developed the vitals, and the only one that has clinically validated our technology for the vitals. And we do resting respiratory rate and heart rate. And then two of the first behaviors that we launched was itching and water intake. So that's what the sensor monitors. Okay, so that's one of the sources for our system to collect data. Then there's two other sources. So the mobile app, which is not only where you can access all this information, you can look at monthly views, weekly views, daily views. You can double down on data yourself. You can set your custom thresholds. So a lot of our clients, for example, for pets that have heart murmur, vets are telling pet owners to keep an eye if the resting respiratory rate goes above 30. Okay, they can go on Maven and select and customize their own thresholds. And then the app is the second source of data collection. So you want to know if you spend a day hiking, or we want to know if you change a medication. And then the system can start to correlate things such as your dog is restless today, might be because of, I don't know, a medication that you started 2 days ago. Or your dog spent the day at the daycare, today is more lethargic, it's fine because they were super active today, so they will take a slower day to day. So it's, for the first time, we have like what we call this contextualized knowledge about pets. Okay, just the other day we had the system automatically flagged an increase on water intake that was correlated with the start of a medication, where the side effect is precisely the pet being more thirsty. And so the system now has knowledge from wearable data, knowledge from whatever the pet owner adds on the mobile app, and it's capable of providing what we call the health insights to the pet owner, which is like quick nudges if something is off, if something is wrong, if there's something they can act on. And they can go from something super simple like, you're in California, it's warm outside, your dog has been super active, just make sure you have fresh water available, to something more concerning where the system even suggests a vet visit. Okay, let's say you have a senior dog with a heart murmur and the resting respiratory rate has been unstable for the last couple of nights. The system will let you know that maybe it's a good idea to check with a vet. Okay, so ultimately, Maven is this data platform that understands each pet in a very complex and comprehensive way, and ultimately helps and guides pet owners to get to know their pet better and act early if something is wrong. So the two interface with the owner is, yes, the wearable, the sensor that goes into the collar, stays there 24/7, and then a mobile app where everything happens.
Yeah, it's amazing. Gee, it's neat to hear you speak about the business now compared to 2 years ago or when we first met, because it's obvious that you guys are getting real traction. And the real traction is coming from the consumer side. We all know that pet owners love their pets. And it appears that there's this kind of three-way partnership. The partnership involves oftentimes the veterinarian, Maven, and the pet owner. And with the absence of any one of those three, the longevity and the health of the pet is quite possibly less. I think it's almost obvious. So, what's the future hold for wearables for pets? I mean, we've been on a run. I think we've had like literally 5 or 6 different wearable companies on the show in the last month and a half. So, there's obviously something kind of going on. There's a reemergence of wearables. I think it's really interesting what you found out. The veterinarians are too busy. I mean, probably if you had asked, we could have told you that. I'm just joking.
And you did.
But, what do you think the future holds? Like, what's going to happen next? I mean, I think the human wearable is a real parallel to what's happening in the veterinary world. But what's your prediction? What's the future look like?
So we've seen another aspect that pets follow a little bit the human trend, right? So in terms of diets, in terms of care, and now in terms of wearables. So like wearables on humans, it's now mainstream, right? Everyone has a smartwatch, a smart ring, a smart band, whatever it is, right? And we do have a lot of clients that they wake up, they see how their sleep was, they want to see how their dog's sleep was. And so there's also a funny aspect to it, right? So they can just the other day, and we are very close to our consumers. Just the other day, one of our clients had the feeling that the pet was not sleeping throughout the night, okay, that was spending the night awake. And then they joined Maven and they realized, because they were comparing their wearable data with Maven data, and the interruptions in the middle of the night were at the same time. So then you realize, okay, my dog is waking up when I'm waking up. Okay, so you are disturbing your dog's sleep, which is the opposite idea that you had before, which is my dog doesn't sleep during the night. And so I feel like just like there are a lot of changes in the wearable space on humans because of AI, because of large language models, we invest there a lot. Everyone talks about data, but and I think I've discussed this with you, Sean, before. I mean, data is as important as the value that you can get from it. So no pet owner has any idea whether their dog spending 300 seconds drinking water, that's good or bad. But what they want is context, right? What's the average of your dog? What's the trend look like? Is there anything else about your dog? Which breed is your dog? How old are they? Are they prone to specific disease? What else is happening on your dog's life? Where do they live? Which is the area? How's the humidity? And so now with technology, we put all of that into context, and it's possible to do so. So I think more and more wearables, the wearable penetration in pet, it's hard to measure, but it's still super low. So I think there's a massive opportunity for companies like Maven to grow. But the goal of wearable technology is precisely to guide pet owners, okay? Because we also do something once in a while. We do like word clouds from our interviews with users, okay? And there's a duality of being a pet owner, right? People say love, joy, family, but on the other end, they say stress, overwhelming, uncertainty. Okay. And what we want to fix with technology, with wearable data and artificial intelligence, is this darker side of being a pet owner, right? Because we cannot communicate with pets. So if I have something on my phone that I can check quickly, that gives me a quick sense on how my dog is doing and if something is off, or I can actually ask, like, how was the night? How is my dog doing? Which is something that we are working as we speak. That will give a lot of, reduce a lot the anxiety that also comes from being a pet owner. And we have plenty of reviews where people say, like, I can sleep at night. Okay, so let's say we have a dog with a heart murmur. You are constant in panic, right? You are working, you're in panic. You're sleeping, you're in panic. And then we have people saying that now, because of Maven, I can truly be at ease and have peace of mind and rest. So I think ultimately that's the impact of what wearable technology can have on the lives of pet owners.
You reminded me with this wearable between the pet and the owner that I always thought that I wake up, I snore, my wife wakes up. But it turns out that she wakes up because I snore. So that's why we live in separate rooms now. So it's a very applicable scenario. I asked you as guest on the podcast with the technology, and I want to ask you the same question. Do you see there's a consolidation coming into our operating system on phones, into Android and the Apple? We now have health. Do you think that's coming because every wearable has their own app? So at some point, it needs to be consolidated at a certain level. Will Apple come out with, my dog, my lizard, or something like that? Or is there an initiative coming where there's like a standardization of certain parameters, so whatever you have, it kind of goes into your phone?
So, in terms of what I can say, I mean, no one knows the future, right? So, I think health data has been of high value on the human side. On the pet side, it will also be. I think it's a matter of other big companies like insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies to really start looking into data. But I think, like, if you open Maven or any other wearable today, in terms of the sensors, in terms of the technology that goes behind the sensor, it's not rocket science. It's not yet as advanced as is some smart bands or smartwatch. Just because there's some things like fur, there's some things like the collar that goes around the neck, which will always be there. So I think we are still far from consolidation because the penetration is so slow. Not so slow, it's increasing, but it's so low. That's what I meant. So I don't know. Maybe one day if Apple wants to look at this, we feel like we are well positioned because just for you guys to have an idea, on a single day, on a single of one of our clients, we analyze and we process close to 1 million data points at the sensor level. And so there's a lot of data that goes from something that's very raw and mathematical at the sensor level to the output that we present and give to the pet owner, right? But everything starts with 1 million data points on a single day.
Gee, it's fascinating, and you haven't lost any of your enthusiasm for the product, so that's good to see. And I'm glad to hear you guys' traction, and it's just a fascinating story of like going direct to veterinary, then going direct to consumer, and now being approached by veterinarians all the time. So I'm glad you figured that out. It sounds like there's a lot in store that you guys are working on. Maybe one last question: what is the most exciting thing that you're tackling right now?
I mean, what I love of my job is the ability to work between the intersection of data, technology, and clinical. And so I think just in the last 6, 8 months, what we can do was unthinkable like 1 year ago, right? And so it's like we now as a team can deliver much faster. We are producing technology at the pace that was not possible before, right? And I can have a full product roadmap for the next 10 years if I want to. So it's like, and what really gets us excited, and just the other day I shared with the team, it's the stories. So it's like, it doesn't matter if we help one pet a day with something that really changed the life of that pet owner, it's worth having a team that pushes every single day, because ultimately, and you were talking about passion, right? It's like, I don't see myself working in any other industry because I don't feel this kind of passion for any other industry. So what gets me really excited is when we are brainstorming product wise what we can develop next, how technology is today compared to 3 or 4 months ago, and things are changing so fast. So we have very exciting product features that we are working on that will soon be announced, and that really will put Maven on a different stage compared to where we are today.
Amazing.
Well, we ran out of time, as we usually do. Really great to hear the update and where Maven is going under leadership. There's 2 questions that we always ask at the end. Is there a YouTube talk, a book, or anything that inspired you recently that you would like to share with listeners?
Maybe a podcast. So I think one of the recent podcasts I heard of.
Podcast is that?
Yes, that was the one, the last episode. No, it's like things are changing so fast, and there are parts of my job that I need to do, right? So to some extent, I always feel this FOMO that I'm being left behind on all these AI craziness. And so I had one recent podcast I heard too was the Ed of Growth at Claude on Lanny's podcast. It's just fascinating how things can change so drastically. And it's like, it's something that never happened before, right? A company growing this fast. And so I try to keep myself updated on all these crazy things that are happening so fast. And that was a insightful podcast on like how companies on a crazy different levels still operate. And it's like at the end of the day, we are all on the same page, right? We all have the same desire to keep growing and building technology that people love and use on a daily basis. But it's just a whole new game. Yeah.
And G, one more question for you. Another innovator that you think we should have on the show?
I will say Emmanuel from Treat. So Treat is a CRO, so a contract research organization. So one aspect that I didn't mention of Maven is that more and more we have brands, companies, universities that want to use our technology for their studies, right? So I'm building an hypothesis around this new supplement for anxiety, or this new supplement for arthritis, or this new food, right? And recently we've been working with Treat because they are very fast on clinical validation. They use a lot of technology. They are facilitating a lot of the time and the money that requires clinical validation today. They are a partner for Maven, so I just think they are really advancing the industry forward. So happy to make an intro to Emmanuel. I think it would be a great guest for the podcast. They are UK based, but more and more they have US based companies reaching out to them for the clinical studies.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.